top stories. Get the news before it's history in the morning.
This man, he might beat his own drum. I mean, he runs his own race. And he's never been afraid, though, to march to the sound of his own ambitions. And that is a fact. From football agent to administrator to club owner, I mean, he's built a TS Galaxy from the ground up, turning the Rockets into one of the most intriguing and fastest growing brands in South African football. Mark my words on that one. We can argue later if you want to, but he has indeed put forward one of the fastest growing brands in SA football. You talk about a Nedbank Cup fairy tale, the audacious purchase of Highlands Park's top flight status, bold decisions that had to be made. Painful lessons, player development and some of the serious transfer business. He's seen the highs. He's also experienced the lows of everything in between. He's also watched young players arriving as rough diamonds and leaving as polished gems. He's also backed coaches. He's taken huge risks and also absorbing criticism and also continue to build a club around a very clear philosophy, which is to develop, compete, sell, and grow. Hey, if you're a farmer, you might be thinking, but that's our philosophy. That's what we do with our crops. Hey, we develop, we compete, we sell, and we grow. But I can tell you one thing, the Rockets are facing another fascinating chapter, a major squad rebuilt. And it is taking place under our eyes. 14 players were signed just the other day. FIFA's registration ban remains in place. He's going to tell us more about that. I get confused about these FIFA bans that they get. But as I say, 14 players signed. Done. And that leaves Bernard Parker now to navigate the opening stages of the season with this severely limited options. But 3 games into the season. There's no victory yet. So what does that do to the man at the top? And that's why tonight we go straight to the source, the man who beats the drum, the man who backs his convictions, and the man who survived the setbacks and keeps building. TS Galaxy President Tim Sukazi. He joins me live right here on #MSW. Mr. President, good evening. Good to see you.
Rob, I had not realized Guti Nginazo Ibong until tonight. You sounded perfectly so well. Njengembongi yami. Koroge, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
I didn't lie, did I? On any fact. On the point of fact, because you're a lawyer.
Truth. Nothing but the truth.
Okay. I love to start on a clean slate.
Very much so.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, man. More so that, as I came here, I remember that I was your first guest in this show.
In the old building.
Precisely, yes, on the 2nd of Feb, 2023. I still remember that very well. And I wished you all the best. I took 5 minutes wishing you all the best in your future endeavors, more specifically with this show. Now, fast forward to this day, I'm so elated to see you having done so well, and the show has become what you had envisaged then. Sure. And I'm pretty much sure that it's going to grow, and be even bigger than big. Well done, Rob.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think they always say from your mouth to God's ears, yes. And that's exactly what has happened. And I was blessed a few seconds ago here, being in one room with 2 presidents, yourself and the man I call the president, who's the Gauteng Premier. It really is an honor and a blessing to bring people of your caliber. And when I talk about brands and expansion, you are basically your own brand. Because as you walked in, I think everybody in the control room were like, did he bring his drum? Is he going to do his thing that we see him on TV? And how would you describe a Tim Sukazi in today, the 19th of August, 2026? How do you describe Tim Sukazi, TS Galaxy, and the brand?
Yeah, look, as for myself personally, probably I'm quite a dynamic character, as you would know. I can somersault to this level of life situation to another on the same day, basically. If I were to say today I was somewhere in a squatter camp, you'll believe me. Equally so, if I were to say today I was sitting in a boardroom with the captain of the industry, CEO of a listed company, you'll believe me, And if I would say today I was at a training field or watching a training match, you'll believe me. Identifying talent, you'll believe me. So I take it as God's gift to me. And I think I do everything possible to realize dreams of many, because certainly and without doubt, this is what God requires of me.
Very profound. Do you say that profoundly, even if I were to argue against it, because you also believe in the power of self-defense? Self-defense in a way that legally you've been able to also outmaneuver a lot. But you also find yourself in the middle of what I was saying confuses me at times about the so-called FIFA ban.
Yeah.
Just as when I thought it was lifted, and then we got to read again that it still is in existence and that you can't really trade on the transfer market. What's the latest there?
Yeah, look, Rob, this is pretty much, I think right now is exaggerated conceptually. However, though, it does remain a ban. So what does it entail? This is about an administrative function within FIFA. They've got a house called the FIFA Clearing House. That's where they require clubs across the globe to submit certain information, more to do with the acting against money laundering across the world. So you have to submit yourself. Who are you? Who owns you? Where do you derive your resources to run a club and so forth and so on? So we had a number of glitches. First time around, this thing, when it came to us, they had their own technical glitch. And they said, listen, it's our fault. We are lifting this ban. You can register players. That was early in the year. However, though, when they resolved the glitch, they never got back to us to say, right now, the provisional lifting that we had afforded you is now off the table because the technical glitch is normal. Go and submit your things. We caught wind of it late, when they confirmed the actual ban. That how so? How could they just confirm the ban, but they should have informed us that what was the technical glitch at the time is normal, so that we could go log into the system and submit our papers. And the sad part is that it takes a long time for them to respond and get back to you. Sometimes they do quicker, sometimes they don't. But on matters of critical importance, such as lifting it, actually, as it is the case now, they don't do it. They don't do it as prompt and quick. However, though, last Friday, they wrote to us, actually, that was Thursday, to say, log on the portal. We've got a message for you. So they send you an email. They notify you accordingly. Then you log on. We found a message that says, we're happy all your documents have been submitted. Everything is in order. The committee is sitting tomorrow on Thursday. On Friday the 14th. Thereafter, we'll let you know in due time. Obviously, we wrote back to understand the meaning of due time in this context, more so that we've started the league. And, they've not been forthcoming with the lifting of the ban, having been given all the information that they asked of us.
So with that information, and I was just noting some of the things that you were saying, I think they wanted to know about your financial reports, so your financial standings, which require, financial statements. And if I'm not mistaken, even information about gate takings.
True that.
So were you able to submit all of those items that they were
very much so?
Yeah.
And interestingly, they take it one step further. Myself, as a so-called UB, ultimate beneficiary, they came to ask about me. Tell us your investments. Where does your money come from? What do you have? This and that and the harder. So you have to lay yourself bare, but then understandably so, to their satisfaction, so as to ensure that clubs are not being run through illicit means, more especially from a financial point of view. Sure.
So what then do you list? Because, you're a man, excuse the pun for those that are watching on the YouTube channel, you're a man that wears a lot of hats. So which one then do you declare in front of, FIFA? Because you can either say you're a lawyer, of which you are. You can either say you're a football club owner, of which you are. You can always say you're a sports agent. I don't know if you still are. Or you're a football administrator. So which one stays, which one drops?
Absolutely. All three that you've mentioned. Part one, the agent part, I abandoned that business many days ago. I sold, transferred to Basha Michaels. I think she's doing a fantastic job for herself. That's history. Otherwise, the three that you've mentioned, that's true, obviously. And also, remember that we have an in-house sports apparel production company, Sizzling Sport. That too, we mentioned.
So you make your own apparel, basically.
Since we were clear on that.
Yeah.
When we were in the third tier, way back then, when we established the club in 2015, we told ourselves we're not going to buy a Kappa or Nike at the time, like Vets were doing, and sell replicas, at a discount and this and that. No, we said we're gonna start our thing from scratch. Sizzling Sport existed then to this day while we're in the PSL, and I'm proud to say probably we produce, or rather we design, one of the best kits.
Who designs them for you?
It's myself and our marketing director. We share ideas. We sit with a pen. I sketch as well. Yes.
So did you sketch your own hat, for example? and what you're wearing right now? I mean, that's a very lovely top.
This she did herself. I had no input on this one.
Okay.
For sure. But on the playing kit, for sure, I sign off.
And then going big, though, I mean, for like a store. The other day we were covering Orlando Pirates' old school store opening. So what's your vision around that? Because visibility is important. And if you're a great marketer, you would know that if you're not visible, then there's not much that you're marketing.
As if you were reading our conversations today, I can show my WhatsApp. Just today, she was showing to me the design or the fitting of the shop, just today, current date. I don't know if maybe
I've got a grabber.
I'm quite impressed. Rob. So I have it right here. But then look, obviously we cannot profess ourselves to be experts. There is some skill that we will source out. There are other people who do it. Here and there we involve them as well so that they can at least put the first draft. Maybe we give them the concept, but we work, back and forth, and eventually we put what we want so that we don't have a company that just puts a jersey on our table. We have to wear it. We have to have a kit that talks to our origin, that probably has to talk about the club now, and maybe the history as well. And at the same time, pay homage to our place of origin. And I think we're achieving that.
I mean, which is very, very important. As somebody whose birthplace was Denelton, you have to really come up with the goods there. But maybe to whisper in my ear, because I could see you were whipping out the phone. I thought you were going to share that information with me. But if you were to share some little insight, because you do have a following, and where do you envision that shop to be? We're dealing with Majanga things here.
Exactly.
Wow. This looks great. Is this a concept photo or is this?
We've gotten the measurements of the store in Kwaggafontein Mall. So we started now working on the fitting of the shop. And certainly we're also going to be opening a Sizzling Sport shop in Bombela.
Why Sizzling Sport? Is that the name of the company that you said manufactures? Yes,
and that's the S on our jersey. That's, our logo is on the right side of our kit.
All right, so we're dealing with all things here, guys, and trust me, do send us your WhatsApp voice notes. I'm doing a little zoom in here. Official TS Galaxy merchandise that is being shown here. I think everybody has spoken about the design, and we've all been big admirers of that because that is the origin. And we saw just the other day when Paddle was being played in Pretoria, and the actual trophies were a design. 100%. So all I'm saying is that that lives in tradition lives long because nobody forgets about it.
True that.
And that is the important thing. Thanks for sharing. I was just taking a wild swig at it, but I am glad to all the listeners to say that it is a shop. True. The concept store is there.
Yes.
And Sizzling Sport is going to sizzle everybody in the same way that your questions or comments are going to be sizzling our ears when we come back.
947. Good evening, Mr. Marawa and Mr. Wishoras. And good evening to Mr. Tim Sukazi. I just want to applaud him for the tremendous job he has done for TS Galaxy so far. His eye on the young talent. We've seen the likes of Puso Titechan, who's currently playing his trade in the MLS. And I just want to find out from him, how is he feeling seeing Puso, making waves in the MLS? And if he has received any offers regarding Useluleko Mahlambi, because I believe he's one of the senior players in the Premier Soccer League. Then Eswatini, a great show as always.
Thank you so much indeed. As we delve into so much about TS Galaxy with their president, Tim Sukazi, who is in studio. And just dealing with that voice note, Tim, We also got a voice note, I think, about 2 weeks ago, talking about the very same player and the impact that he's making within the MLS. What's the latest and what's your feeling now looking at your product?
Yeah, no, I'm very proud, to be honest. Given my history with him, that's why I say sometimes people may want to give credit to me and say I've got an eye for talent. I believe it's an eye of God, to be honest. His Torsapuso is very fascinating. It was like prophetic on my part to obviously talk to him at the time. And our parting shot on that particular night, I was in London, I remember. Then I said, man, just let me know, should there be anything? You've got a long contract at the club, well done. I wish you well, that you break into the top league and so forth and so on. Hardly a week later, then he drops me a message, Chairman, did you say I should tell you, should there be a problem or anything happen? I said, yes. I said, yeah, I think they're firing me at my club, So I took it from there. It was really my involvement was purely informed by the belief in his talent. And so to see him making a mark in an international market, more so in the MLS where there's Messi and all other big stars or global stars that we've grown to know, it gives me that sense of pride and I feel so much vindicated. And when I look at his actions, I also tend to believe that still has a lot more to offer. Probably the MLS is just but the first step. He's destined for one of the top 5 leagues in Europe for
But
sure.
if you had to be honest with me, and I know you do get to that honest level when we push you, I don't want to push you yet.
Yes.
But if not MLS, where do you think he belongs?
Look, I've looked at the profiling of certain players in the Bundesliga. I think he has that. And, I've got empirical evidence. It's not just me who thinks about that. We once played Augsburg here, a German club. He took them to the cleaners, to be honest. He even scored against them during their preseason in 2024 then. And he was not the Buso now. His build is stronger. So when you look at them with Alas and other players of a similar making, I think he could fit in that league and he could make a mark. And you look at the South African players who once played there, Skilo, Pinar, Zuma, Siankosi. So you believe that for sure. Yeah, he has that. He could be in the Bundesliga for sure, without doubt.
And how much time are you giving for that transition to happen? Because, we had a player just here last night in Mameniang who played in the German Bundesliga. And he said the only time they called him up was simply because he was playing in the Bundesliga. That's how much of profile the Bundesliga does have. We've seen in terms of what it's done to a guy like Harry Kane, who would have never been able to get to the heights that he's been able to get to, especially when it comes to UEFA Champions League. How close do you think it would be and how long would it take to make that transition?
In the next 2 years, in my fair estimation. Yeah, it can't be probably more longer than that. 2 years, obviously, depending on his club, if they would be willing to sell. But I'm sure, should he continue right now, and perform in the way he's doing or even more, I think that call will come. It's just a matter of time.
Well, the voice note is also asking about Seluluko as well, just saying that, what's the latest?
There's keen interest, to be honest. However, obviously nothing formal, just talks around the corridors with 2 of the South African football giants, for sure. But then there's never been anything concrete. And I was clear to say I would wish him to also follow in the footsteps of Uso. Should there be an opportunity in the MLS, I would like to see him going there because I believe it's a good stepping stone, for players such as Mahlambi and Buso certainly. If that cannot be achieved, probably he may consider to engage at a later stage.
So you are willing to let him go to an Orlando Pirates, a Kaizer Chiefs or a Sundowns if the overseas door and knock does not happen?
Certainly, and I'll tell you why. I think I went at pain to explain myself last year. I think you just mentioned it in passing. You alluded to it about Mameniang.
Yes.
Well, the same human being was never called for his national team while he was here. The same human being, when he lands in Germany, nothing has changed. He gets the call up. So the same happens, fortunately or unfortunately, in our country. I had said that Ndamane had to go to Sundowns in order for him to go to the World Cup. I had said Sibilibili had to go to Orlando Pirates in order for him to go to the World Cup. Otherwise, they would have rendered the same or similar performance as they've done at their new clubs. At TS Galaxy, they were never going to see the plane going to the USA.
But what causes that, though, Tim? Is it just the fact that the coaches of the national teams don't take a TS Galaxy seriously and the kind of players that you churn out, or there is doubt about the level that a TS Galaxy would have as opposed to a Pirates, a Sundowns, a Kaizer Chiefs, although Hugo Broos didn't really favor much in terms of Chiefs players?
Yeah, no, look, personally, I think not much is being done really in looking for players. I'd never seen Hugo Broos set out matches in Bombela, but I've seen him never ever. But I've seen him a number of times in Gauteng. That alone, or even his assistant. And from the person who watches football religious, such as myself, I promise you, Rob, at some point I felt like I could assemble another national team that could beat what Bruce had assembled for the World Cup. Honestly, yes, we have got players. Clubs like Skukune do have players. At Amazula could pick up a player. Also at Richards Bay, I could pick up a player. I know which players exactly at what club, for sure, for no doubt about it.
So I think based on what you're saying, and sorry to cut in here, yes. I find it very fascinating, and being a football minded, I know you go to tournaments nobody even knows about, and you sit there in your car and you're scouting for players, and you take those players and you bring them over to TS Galaxy, or even at the time when you were still an agent, you would sell them off to other parts of the country. Based on what you're saying that if a player does not have noise around him, he is not considered a possibility for the national team.
Absolutely.
So you have to make a lot of noise about a player for him to be actually heard about in the corridors of Bafana Bafana.
And the nature and the identity of the noisemaker also matters. So you could make noise as TS Galaxy or fans or here and there, have a few exchanges on social media, it won't matter. However, if it's made probably at Orlando or at Naturena, it does matter, or even at Lorkop, it does matter, So that's the nature of things. And I think it's a human defect to me, with reference to the national team selectors, because we are depriving our country, certain and other human beings, players, deserving players, the opportunity to play international football for the good of the country. As I've said, we do have players at certain clubs. I look at them every day. I say, this one should be in the national team. It's just that I can't mention them here.
I was about to say, why don't you just tell me maybe 4 or 5 of the players that you feel have gone unnoticed and should have boarded the plane to America?
Maybe I could mention 1 or 2. More especially if I were to look at Hugo Broos's principles, of the game. He emphasized a lot on physicality, which is the reason why I really never played. Really was never, or not in the plans, by the way. It was just, it so happened that Zwane got a red card and the opportunity presented itself, and, it became impressive. If he were to stand to that principle, maybe there's a striker at Skukune. He shouldn't have left. There's a striker that's Kukune, just number 3. I think Ndlovu is the name. For example, just to illustrate, just making probably one example. And similarly, Richards Bay last season, maybe the boys injured, had a striker, still a novice, but he could have been groomed into the national team as well. Buso himself, for example, and indeed, Mahlambi, if I were to come home. So we do have players. It just needs people to take time and travel and watch these clubs and watch these players and really make a fair selection. More so if you had to compare, the Ndlovu probably to Lyle Foster. Without criticizing Lyle, I think he went there in a very bad shape. Otherwise, nothing against him. But then I don't think he was a deserving player at the time during the work to be there at the expense of maybe this player that I've mentioned, just as an example. Otherwise, nothing against him. I mean, he's played for big clubs in Europe and now he's in the English. He was in the English Premiership just before the World Cup. Nothing against. But at the time, you could see that he's heavy. He was heavy during the World Cup, prior to the World Cup, when we played that country at Orlando, it was crystal clear, even at the time, and even prior, he wasn't playing at his lap, he wasn't scoring any goals. You know, what's the first criteria, for example, of selecting a striker? You should be hitting
Current
the net.
form.
Yeah, current form, and it should be. And with the World Cup, we take the best of what we have. It's not a question that is 34 or 33 or what. You take your best of what you have into an international tournament.
But again, it goes back to what we were talking about, the reputation and which club exposes you. So if you're playing in the Premier League, that's already a plus factor. So regardless of current form, that was my reading. But you have...
It's a Mama and Young story.
You know the story.
Yeah.
And if you were listening yesterday, you would know exactly what we're talking about. I mean, you've had Abos Fisongo Beni, Zuko, Kabusa, Edson Kumalo, Kamagu, Devulana, there's Pomauke, Enslin Williams, Simtandile Sishi, Bongani van der Rieda, Lenoma Tebula, Azola, Jagalashe, there's Tebelo Chikweta, there's Keke. I can go on, 14 names plus. But you're not able to use any of these, despite you saying to the world, these are going to be our players. So how long can you hold these players without FIFA saying, go ahead? Because that also puts pressure on your coach now because the results aren't forthcoming.
Yeah. Look, I think it's a matter of time, to be honest, because they wrote specifically, they responded to my last submission to say you have submitted everything we had asked of you. Our committee is sitting on the 14th, which is last week Friday, and we will get back to you in due time. I would want to believe that due time would be as soon as possible, in the next few days at least, or even before our match next week. Why is that? Because I think I had overly emphasized the real fact that we had started with our league program, and therefore us not being able to use our newly signed players is causing some serious prejudice. Obviously, they would know that there could be some repercussions, should obviously this unintended harm continue, and to our own detriment over a period of a season.
Bernard Parker, there was always a debate. I don't know if it was your debate or maybe as the public we were debating whether you would stick with him to be your coach getting into the new season. Like I say, doubt initially. What do you say to us publicly now? What is the official line for those who might not have heard?
Yeah, obviously he's our head coach right now. And I would say without any fear of contradiction that the country is yet to see the best of Bernard Parker's contribution in football. We have seen him play, but now he has taken this journey. I repeat, the country is yet to see the best of him.
As a coach?
Yes, best of his contribution in football holistically. Yeah. I think he'll do better as a coach than as a player. That's my opinion.
Because there was a stage where you were saying that if you don't have, for example, a UEFA A,
yes,
the pro license, or you don't have CAF A license, then there's no way you're going to be coaching TS Galaxy. What's your standpoint now?
Look, as a foreign coach, for sure, that standpoint remains. However, with local talent, so I'm seized with the God's responsibility of identifying the best of talent available for the good of our football. So he is such talent. I rate him highly. And I think with him, with some levels of empowerment, be it coaching, education, and so forth and so on, he will even be better than what is showing now. And to that effect, I think he's going off to Lithuania to do his UEFA Pro license. So I think that will help him a lot.
So because then it interrupts him being there for the season, what happens when he's away for his learnership?
Yeah, he will go. We've put the dates when we won't be playing. I think there will be a FIFA week in and around late September to October. And he will be back in the country some 2-3 days before our next game.
Rob, this is Gift here in extension for Soweto in Snake Park. Robert, you have a very, very, very respectable man there. The one who watches soccer with the stakeholders, I mean the fans. He beat the drums with the fans there. I don't have many because of you already give a very, very, very fed introduction to him. So what I will ask for him is to give Bernard Parker a chance. But I know that he's not a CEO who always fires coaches. Just give Parker a chance to coach, and then so that we have more coaches here in South Africa, so that even when the national team need a coach, we have a lot to choose from. Good show as always, Robert Marawa.
Baba Marawa, uhlengwane lo ngilawano ngoma KZN. No, to Babu team. Firstly, let me say thank you for keeping Bernard Parker. The guy is good. He's good. I think after 10 years, he will be the best coach after Peter and Roland. I strongly believe he's that good. One question, why you decide to be a selling team? Because if you can keep your player, I think by now you'll be challenging the league, the cups. Because if you check the player that you released for the past 5 years, Abo, Batusi, Telezi, Puto, all those top players that you decided to sell them. If you kept that player, you can be challenging the league. What makes you decide that you are a selling team? Because you look like you're a stable man. Like I don't think you are that. I think you're stable. You're stable. So why are you trying to be a selling team? Thanks, Robert.
Are you stable? Yes or no?
Stability of the mind, sanity at all given times, yes.
947 Wednesday nights, soccer nights, your nights.
Of course, it is a Wednesday, it is soccer night, it is hashtag MSW Marawa Sports Worldwide, wherever you are around the country, the continent, or the world. Tim Sukazi is my guest. He's the president of TS Galaxy. And as we're heading into the break, we decided not to have a break, but to have a whole negotiation here. Because we were looking at the situation as it stands in front of us here, at the voice notes that are coming in, the messages that are coming in from Facebook, looking at the YouTube channel and what is going on. And we've negotiated, and he's agreed that we're going to do what, Tim?
Extend our time.
And for the next 30 minutes after 7 o'clock.
Yes.
Thank you so much for allowing us to do that. So there you have it. If you're thinking, he's not going to get to my voice note, we'll get to every voice note. That much I can guarantee you. We'll also take your calls. We'll look at the voice notes and the messages on Facebook and the YouTube channel so that we try and cover as much ground as we possibly can. Tim, before we hit the break, there was that question about you being a selling team, saying that if you weren't selling as much, you would be competing. You'd probably be winning the league.
True that. There's some element of truth to that. However, though, I think I had explained myself, and I don't mind doing it again. We sell for a number of reasons. There are players whom we believe that they deserve an opportunity at a higher level, more especially the national teams. Damani is an example. I've spoken about Sibilibili, for example. Obas is also another example. These players, without doubt, had they been here or had they stayed at TS Galaxy, probably only one, or they would not have had a chance at national level. So in order for that to be achieved, to profile also the club, the kind of talent that we are able to churn out, we have to transfer them. And indeed, that brings about resources into the club, into our own project, and then we are able to reinvest and strengthen the club. We stay to be challenged, of course, not easy to sell probably 5-6 of your starting 11 and in the next season be competitive in this league. It's a very tough league. But then, by the grace of God, we've been able to do that. The more we're able to give bigger and better opportunity to his children, the more he affords us and gives us. He shows us where the talent is.
But with that model, so I look at the model, the business, the model that you're describing now, can you genuinely become a top 4 team with the kind of business model that you have currently?
Certainly, yes, we can. Definitely, I have no doubt. More especially if you look at our acquisitions now, PT, they haven't played. We have sort of categorized them. We have packaged them nicely. We know who's ready now, who's ready in the next 3 months, who's ready in the next 6 to 9 months. And they are very young. Our squad is quite young. I think last Sunday or since the season has started, even last season, we were playing it least no less than 4 players who were born in 2006. So we are building. You can see that the future is quite bright. If these kids could stand their own ground in this tough league and be part of a team that would beat a Mamelodi Sundowns, for example, then that augurs well for, the future of this club and us being competitive, more especially if we are able to bring on board the talent, in good numbers like we've done this season.
Okay, let's head off to Pretoria. We go to Maxwell. Maxwell, good evening. You're from Mpumalanga, right? If I'm not mistaken, originally.
You are quite right.
You want to say something to Tim?
Yes, Big Boss, good evening, and thanks, Marawa, for the opportunity. What I like about Bratim Marawa is this thing. If it's wrong, he acknowledge the mistake that he might have done. I remember this a month ago. He clashed with the Mbombela mayor and they came back and hugged the mayor. Then they sorted out the issue of the lease at the stadium in Mbombela. But it's one person who, if he believes in you, because there is this saying that you need one person or so to believe in you, to empower you. Bennett Parker has found that man in Tim Sukazi. I like his model of football where if he thinks that this player is bigger than his team, he can manage to sell the player at the end of the day. Lastly, Pratim, I'm asking whoever is penciling the Premier Soccer League, Pratim, ask him next season. I want to watch TS Galaxy and Mamelodi Sundowns 3 o'clock weekend. Tuesday situation, it must stop. Thank you so much, Bob Marawa, and thanks, Pratim. Love you lots.
Tim, somebody also said last week, says, why is TS Galaxy playing all of their games on a Tuesday? They would love it to stop. And as Maxwell was saying, what's the deal?
Yeah. Look, I think he's making a point. I had declared, I think some 2-3 years ago, that outside the Soweto Derby, there's a new rivalry in South African football. That is TS Galaxy versus Mamelodi Sundowns. That match is not a normal match. You can go to all the files, you'll see what I'm talking about. And therefore, I think he's got a point that it deserves to be played on a Saturday afternoon. And strange enough, year in, year out, I think this is the 3rd year in a row where it comes out. Our home game is always on a Tuesday night, But then, it's a system, that generates this kind of fixtures. How is it possible that it could be so consistent? I'm not sure.
But would you say it's the same system as what made the then Maritzburg United have fixtures on a Friday? So it became a big fixture on a Friday to say, hey, come to Maritzburg and watch games. Or was that a request from the club to say this works better for us to have Friday night football?
That's a differentiator. In Maritzburg case at the time, I would want to believe that Friday was their preferred date. So when you complete your membership form for the new season, you do have to indicate, your preferred dates of playing your fixtures. So not necessarily membership form, but there's a form that you do systematically. You have to indicate which days would you prefer. So we are a Sunday club. We prefer Sundays. Then the second day, outside Sunday, is a Saturday. And then if there's nothing else, obviously a Friday. We have never penciled a Tuesday.
So then how does Tuesday become a date that is almost seen as a favorite date for you?
It could be issues or matters of convenience. Remember, the Sundowns are the perennial winners of our league, and therefore they play consistently in the Champions League. Probably the Tuesday comes as a more favorable day so as to allow them to play, on a Saturday Champions League game or even a cup. However, though, the strange part is exactly that only to us, they choose the issue, more to us than other teams, of course.
Because especially if it's a Tuesday night, to what benefit does a working person do with the Tuesday night? It really, really, for me, makes absolutely no sense.
Good evening, Mr. Marawa. Ukhuluma noSibongeleni Wamkhwane, and good evening to Mr. Tim Sukazi, one of my favorite chairmen go Betway Premiership, Mr. Marawa. Firstly, let me applaud Ubaba Sukazi for entrusting Bernard Parker to lead his team this season as a head coach. Remember, he was an interim coach toward the end of the season, last season, and he managed to take the team to a Nedbank Cup final. What I want to know from Ubaba Sukazi is that what mandate he has set for Bernard Parker this season, since he has become the head coach of TS Galaxy. And lastly, I just want to wish Ubaba Sukazi and the rest of the TS Galaxy family, the Rockets, everything of the best. Mr. Marawa, thank you. Good show as always.
That's a favorite people ask about mandates. Is that something you've put down for Bernard?
Certainly not. And the reasons, I think, are within his statement. Why? Because I think we all agree now that with Parker, we are in a dual building phase, rebuilding the club, and his career as a coach, and when you do that, you don't want to put him under unnecessary pressure. All you need to do is to be able to be there, to assist, to guide, to counsel him when it's be. All I expect and I would wish for him is to be the best of what he can be.
Right. Let me just take a couple of the Facebook questions. I'm going to come back to you, who's calling us, and also to the voice notes. Enoch Matla says, is he grooming someone among the family to guide the team when he gets old? I mean, you're a 1972 baby.
Not even.
You're not even that close,
Not even. Interesting question, though. Look, obviously, I would want to believe that I'm at my prime right now. And indeed, I am surrounded and I've put together a team of young executives within the club. And you'll be astounded to know that none of them probably were never in football prior to being at TS Galaxy. So I identify talent in different ways, at all levels or all spheres of life where I get to be involved. In this case, I think our executives are quite good. They will be great in the near future. So it's not a question of a family member who's supposed to be. And indeed, if someone within the family comes up and they also show certain qualities, deservedly so, they'll be part of the journey. Right now, I think we've got a very solid exco, and they will be fantastic for South African football in the future.
All right. If you join us a little bit later, we are going to be extending for another 30 minutes after 7 o'clock. So you can join the YouTube channel for the conversation and also log in your questions there. Sipo, I see you. But I thought one that's very important that we take before we break away. And I'm glad Ulihle on Facebook has also compounded on the question, saying that does he believe that the PSL needs a governance overhaul? Because now it looks like players refereeing their own match. Do we need more independence on the board?
Yeah, interesting question. Personally, I've served at boards, a number of boards, state-owned, private entities and so forth. And as you would know, by their nature, those boards do become independent, And that was my first thought process, obviously, about football as well, to say probably under an independent board, things could be done differently, thinking my way, of having chaired boards and, certain critical committees within boards, audit committees, legal committees, and so forth and so on. However, though, when you get to football, and when you're within, I have now had the opportunity of serving at the NSL Exco for the last 2 years, you come to realize that there is so much that has been done over the years and achieved an institutional memory within the seniors of the game. I'm talking now Dr. Koza and Dr. Mutaung, for example. These people, they've got so much. If you were to eradicate such institutional memory, I think we'll be making a fundamental error. So the situation, it is the situation as it is right now. And unfortunately, it so happens that other board exco members also are club owners. And when their time comes, if it will come at all, or whatever the case may be, probably they will also be having so much. The game is slightly different to normal corporate. Here is a different proposition completely altogether. I would say we have a chairman of the league who's still at his age, in all honesty, very sharp, quite incisive, and he's got so much knowledge and the history. We have to go and suck in there and have to know things that we don't know, but we ought to know, because otherwise, if we lose him, if we lose Dr. Mutahung without some of us having gone the journey with them, probably it will be a huge loss. So it's a very tricky balancing act.
So because we have to leave,
it needs to be phased in.
We will continue the conversation, so don't go anywhere. We just need to hand over the lines there. But do you believe in a yes or no that you would be the most likely and more deserving chairman to be the chairman of the PSL?
Myself?
Yeah.
I have never imagined myself. Obviously, it will have to depend on the prevailing circumstances at the time. Today now, I don't have the ambition of got a highly capable chairman.
I'm saying if he was not there, but find out the answer when you come back as well. This has been Marawa Sports Worldwide.
Marawa Sports Worldwide on 947, Monday to Friday from 6 to 7 p.m.
#MSW.